Hey guys, welcome to the Plan B CRNA podcast. I'm your usual host, Bobby Jones, but today, friend of the show, Matthew Newton, is going to finish up his conversation with nurse practitioner and short term rental manager, Naomi Morson. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Now, on with the show. Welcome to the Plan B CRNA podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Jones, and I'm so excited that you're here. The Plan B CRNA podcast is the only show made specifically for nurse anesthetists who are exploring options outside of their traditional career paths. This is the place to expand your mind and your goals as we uncover new ways to produce side income together. Join me for some honest, unscripted discussions with other CRNAs who are transforming their financial lives. This episode is brought to you by On-Call Capital. On-Call Capital is dedicated to educating CRNAs and other healthcare providers about investing outside of the traditional stock market. On-Call Capital also provides opportunities for you, yes, you, to create passive income and generational wealth while also lowering your taxable income through investments in the apartment and alternative investment spaces. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, make sure you do that right now so that you don't miss an episode. Thanks so much for joining me today. And now, on with the show.
All right, so 3 beach properties. So
Yep.
for this kind of market, are there any amenities that your houses must have? I mean, do they need a beach view? Do they need a golf cart? Do they walking distance to the beaches? What do you need to be successful, I guess, in the Pensacola beach market?
So in the Pensacola beach market, it's a little unique because there's downtown Pensacola, there's Gulf Breeze, which is the city in between Pensacola proper, like downtown, and Pensacola Beach. So Pensacola Beach, Gulf Breeze, Pensacola, and we're in downtown Pensacola, which it's all like 15 minutes away from the beach. I mean, we're right by the beach, but in downtown, our thing is being in proximity. So that location is key. You've got to have a good location. Just like any other city, there's, desired areas and undesired areas. So we're walking distance to downtown, and we have on 2 of our 3 properties, bay views. So you can see a little bit of the water. We're across the street from this world famous fish market. So we've got a couple hooks. You got to have something. I think if you're in Pensacola Beach proper, maybe the golf cart, because you need to be able to easily get to the beach. They've got a trolley, which is awesome, but I think everything has a hook, and our hook is that proximity to downtown. And it's a phenomenal downtown area. It's like a mini New Orleans, but less, I don't know, crazy.
Okay, very nice. Yeah, for us, it's you have to have a hot tub and a view. That was all the advice that I
Absolutely.
received from people in the mountains. They're like, hot tub and view, everything else you can work out.
And I agree. When I look at a mountain property, I want a hot tub and I want a view. That's my things. Yeah.
I wish the hot tub wasn't part of it, because hot tubs are such a pain in the butt.
I've heard, oh my gosh. And I want a pool so bad. And my husband's like, no, we don't. No, we don't. And I'm like, no, we do. And he's like, no, we don't. So it's hard.
I'll tell you this. So we have a pool at our house right here, and I'm a big budget spreadsheet person. I couldn't believe how expensive pools are just to maintain. And some of them simple, but like I have a saltwater pool in my house, and I'm like, gosh, like what does it add on to my monthly budget? So at this point, I'm like, I can't take care of this myself. It's just so much,
Oh,
And I'm like, so I pay people to come by and do it, and I love my pool. I mean, it gets tons and tons of use. It's well worth it. But I was like, man, I wish I would have known this when budgeting a house, because I would have made my game plan a little more solid.
and then you put that into a rental property and you're like, oh, holy cow, I better be making up for that. So
And then you have the guests that don't understand pool heater. It does not mean your pool is going to be a hot tub. It just means your pool will be freezing cold.
right.
Or, why is there 3 leaves in this pool? I don't understand.
I don't even want to and yeah, the headache that I would deal with, I'm sure, I don't know. I'd have to weigh some pros and cons there.
So yeah, I guess guests are pretty funny.
Oh yeah. I've had
So,
plenty.
so tell me about one of your houses. Pick one of your specific houses. What's the profit look like? What does the house cost when you first bought it? And what's it
Yep.
worth now? Do you have a yearly projection as far as the revenue will go?
Yeah. So I think our first house that we bought is kind of the easiest to speak to. And I think it's probably the most profitable. We bought it in 2020 for $330,000, did that 20% down. And now, I would say at least we could sell it for $450,000. So the equity alone has been, even if we didn't make a profit with our short-term rental, we're still looking at a great profit with equity. So I would say we could sell it for a minimum of 400,000, maybe even upward to 480, 500. And then averaging revenue on one property is about 50 a year, 50,000. Now, when you take out everything, our mortgage, our expenses, all the, nickel and dime, buying more towels, all those little things, we're making an average per property, and including this one, about 15,000 a year, just, net. So it's definitely been a worthwhile investment. And it's gone up and it's gone down, but I'd say looking at our spreadsheets before I did this podcast, I was like, I want to have some solid numbers. That average is right at about 15. So
That's fantastic. I mean, so you look at 3 properties plus whatever you do for your current house right now, you're looking probably around 60,000 ish or so. It just extra revenue. That's huge,
yes,
And
yes.
for most everybody out there, like, I mean, imagine having an extra $60,000 a year you can just use to spend on your family or roll into and invest in further
Yep.
projects. That's
Yes.
fantastic.
It's been a completely worthwhile endeavor. And honestly, I never in a million years thought we would be this profitable. So it's been awesome.
That is fantastic. So speaking of being profitable, I'm sure you have friends and family that heard you have a beach house and they call you left and right asking, hey, can I just go stay out there for free this week? Do you let all your friends and family stay there for free, or do you cut them discounts or charge them or upcharge them for being a pain?
So we basically, our parents have done a lot for us. So we wanted to give our parents like a free weekend thing. But outside of that, including like siblings, cousins, friends, we have a discount code. So the cool thing about having a direct booking website, I can give them a code. So if you like go to nextlineproperties.com, you actually hit the thing book, there's a place to enter a discount code. So we've been able to give all of our, because I mean, you think about you're taking a risk with any short-term renters, but when you have friends and family, they're going to take care of your place. And I want them to come. I want to be able to offer that to them. So we do that. The other thing we do is offer a little bit of a military discount because, of course, we appreciate our military, and Pensacola is a huge military town, and we want to give back to them as well. So
I do the same thing with military and healthcare. Yeah, and honestly, my thing is as long as the guests approach me in a decent way, like I'll usually give them a little bit off. Because like I've had people say, hey, times are tough. Do you mind, shaving a little off? And I'm like, sure, I'll knock $50 off just to be nice.
teachers, I've had a lot of teachers. My sister is a teacher, an elementary school teacher in Pensacola, and bless her, she's so hardworking, but they just don't make much money. So I think, there's definitely room for that. And if someone approaches me in the right way, I'm open to that.
So you have 3 properties and you rent out your basement. You're clearly one of the overnight millionaires that's on their yacht somewhere. Um,
Oh,
so I guess these are all on autopilot. They require no work whatsoever, and your superhost status was just granted to you out of nowhere. Is that am I getting this correct?
so I think people might think that it actually does take a good bit of work. I mean, I think once you have the infrastructure, like we have the best cleaning crew. This woman owns her own business there. I love supporting other people's businesses. So you got that. I got a handyman who can do anything. I have not given him one thing that he couldn't do. We bought new houses, new builds. So it's not a whole lot of upkeep. I've got my sister there, having a touch point person. And, it's a 6-hour drive, but we could do it if we needed to. Like we have to sometimes if we need to go down. I mean, we go down at least 5 times a year, sometimes even more than that every other month. We're down there, both to see family, but also to take care of the properties. So it's definitely not on autopilot, but I would say it's worth it. Like I'm able to work a full-time job and manage these. And I think a lot of people think there's no way you could do that. And it's, if you have the right infrastructure and you have the ecosystem that you built around your short-term rentals, you can do it. And it's something I enjoy, which is why we're growing it now. My husband and I have talked a lot about having a career that's a passion. I love working with people. I love communicating with them. I never take more than 5 minutes to respond to someone when they send me a message. I enjoy that. I want to be there for them. And I appreciate the customer service because we know healthcare is a lot like customer service. As a nurse practitioner, that patient I'm seeing, they're giving me a score, like it's not that different in some ways. So I like that. I like that challenge to get the good review. And boy, if I get 1 star off on any category, you better believe I am taking it seriously. And this superhost you mentioned, oh my gosh, not given to you. Actually, I've been a superhost since 2016. I never missed a superhost status for Airbnb. I've been a premier host on VRBO. These are things that matter, especially if you're one of those long haulers like we talked about. People look at that. They look at your reviews. They really care about that. I mean, maybe you get the off person that doesn't, but 99% of the time you're looked at by the scores that you have, and people want to rent from someone they're comfortable with. So
Yeah, and that super host badge and premier host badge, it does increase bookings supposedly by about 23% is what I've been reading.
I have I sound like I'm tooting my own word too much. I've been a superhost so long, I don't really know personally if it would. I'm like, I've been a superhost so long, but really, like, it makes. I do think it makes a difference because when we started out, I didn't get very many bookings. When we put our first properties on, before I had that, I remember thinking like, okay, like, do I need to lower my price? Like, what am I doing wrong? And then, slowly things picked up. I got the superhost, and I did notice a difference. And the premier host. And I will say with Airbnb, they have a super host hotline or whatever. So when you call, I mean, their customer service, like their service fees are high for the service fees are high for the guests, but their customer service is really pretty on point. So I appreciate that. And VRBOs too. Like I had to call theirs recently and I was impressed. And even booking.com, like they've got some good customer service for those service fees that, you or the guest are paying. So
Oh, that's good to hear. So speaking of, customer service, have you had any interesting guests that have had funny or weird complaints or questions that you've had to deal with?
I had so many, but focus on like my two most interesting. I think when we first started renting our third floor in Charlotte, we had a guy who wanted to cook, and we didn't usually like let too many people use the kitchen, but if they asked, it was like fine, like whatever. Well, he put some chicken to bake in the oven and went and took a shower, and I guess he forgot about it. So we get home and it smells disgusting, like charred flesh in our entire townhome. And I'm like looking around and I see smoke coming out of the oven. And this poor kid, I mean, he was probably 20 years old, traveling by himself to visit like a college or something. I don't even know. And he was so apologetic, but it was hilarious. And it took a long time to get that smell out. And the other one was what we call the ant man. This guy complained, I kid you not, it was like 4 ants in our kitchen. But I was like, that's fine. Like, I sent our cleaning crew there. I said I can have the pest control out the next day because pest control is a must in Florida and beach properties. And so he was seemed like he was fine with it, whatever. And then he checks out and we actually also gave him a partial refund on his cleaning fee just because of I was like, I really try to go above and beyond. I'm like, he sent me a picture. There are a few ants, whatever, partial refund on the cleaning fee, sent a cleaning crew out to clean the area. She literally took pictures and she's like, there's no ants. But I was like, whatever, I don't know. He asked for a full refund on the cleaning fee when he checked out. And I was like, I addressed the situation while you were there. And he's like, well, something to the effect of if you want a good review, then you're going to do it, basically. And I can't remember the exact verbiage, but I immediately called the support line and they said, like, that's not okay. If he leaves you a bad review, call us back. And I actually got his bad review deleted, which is extremely hard to do. So I always encourage people only communicate with guests on the platforms, because if something goes wrong, your text message isn't going to hold up necessarily. Your phone conversation isn't going to hold up. But because he had put that in the platform, I was able to get that deleted. And thank goodness. So he was obviously just trying to get money. And that's very rare. I have to say, that's not common, but they are out there. Those people are out there. So you have to kind of watch yourself.
Yeah, I've definitely run into a couple of those where they're climbing on top of objects to like look at the very tip top of a chandelier and be like, look, there's dust up here. And it's like, dude, come on,
Come
man.
on, come on. Yeah. And I don't give refunds to everyone for every little thing, but there are things that are going to come up. So I get it.
I had somebody message me one time. They said my outside screen was dusty on my cabin, and I'm like, it's an outside screen. I'm like,
In the mountains.
where are the mountains? Like I don't. What's next? Is there squirrels out there? And you saw too many deer on the way in? Like,
And you want to say these things. You want to be like, are you serious? But, of course, you're like, I'm so sorry. Da, 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 da. You kind of have to play that part, even though, you're really secretly rolling your eyes because
I had a guest a couple months ago that said, we saw a lot of deer on the way up here. And I was like, yeah, that's awesome.
Yay, that's
Like, she goes, is it okay? And I was like, yeah, yes. I mean, like if you look, there's turkey everywhere too. They're all right as well. Like,
oh my gosh. Like, what do you even say to that? I don't know.
like enjoy it. I like seeing the deer and the turkey everywhere.
I agree. Yeah. Glad they didn't see bears because that might have turned them around. I'm sure there are bears, but yeah, I mean, you have to understand these people may not have ever been in the mountains, or they may never have been to the middle of Florida, and they're not used to the humidity and there's sugar ants and there's, those things. So you just got to.
For our listeners, Naomi was actually one of the people I called when I first started getting into STRs to say, give me your tips and tricks. And yeah, I mean, you wrote a novel for me of all your
I'm
advice.
passionate about this. I love it.
It was very helpful, and I think that's what we need in our community is other, hosts and, nurses supporting other nurse and hostess. But I remember one of the things you told me was, if there is any kind of issue or anything that might detract from your property, make sure you just talk about it and list it, whatever in your listing. Because, I remember like, as all mountain homes have, I have a large gravel driveway that takes 10 minutes from the main road. So, I tell people, I'm like, hey guys, there's a gravel driveway. It goes up a mountain. It takes 10 minutes, a little bumpy here and there. No four-wheel drive needed. And it's funny because I've actually had a number of guests from your advice say, hey, I wasn't a huge fan of the driveway, but thank you for letting me know about it beforehand. And it's just
Yeah.
wow, because that could have easily translated into a negative review.
Absolutely. And I think having that, setting that expectation is crucial with our properties. Two of the three, we are on that main street close to downtown. You can sometimes hear noise. There's often construction. And same thing, I learned my lessons on trying to help other people. I had somebody leaving a review, great house, great host. It was really noisy. And I was like, oh, that doesn't look good, So by heading it off up front, most of the time people don't even say anything. So, and I actually got little sound machines for all of the bedrooms. So it helps. Yeah.
That's actually really good.
Yeah.
So with the way our economy's been kind of headed, has it been the greatest raging economy as of recently? I watch a lot of the online forums and all that. It looks like bookings are down about 10% across the board, just from what I can see. Have you noticed this reflected in your beach properties at all for the summer?
Yes, I've noticed a couple trends. The occupancy is down a little bit. So we have lowered our prices a little bit to keep occupancy. I would say our occupancy has been fairly consistent, but we've had to lower our prices a little bit, which is, I don't know, you could kind of go either way with that, but that's what we chose to do. And I mean, I'm not talking about like 20%. I'm talking about, 5 to 10% less. And the other trend I've seen is just lost my train of thought. The occupancy, the rate. Oh, booking people are booking closer. Like like summers previous, maybe they would book out 3 months. Now I'm seeing, 1 to 2 months. And so trying not to get too nervous about it because I've still, again, mostly maintained occupancy, but they may book a week or two ahead. And that's not been the norm previously. So I think we're making a little bit less currently with this bit of a recession, this dip, but overall still making a profit. And again, the equity in the house, bigger picture, you have to understand how cash flow works with the long-term haul here. So it's been okay, but it's definitely been a downturn for us as well.
People, and it's funny that you touch on that because a lot of newbie investors for real estate don't understand that you make money in real estate and more than just cash flow.
Yeah.
There's appreciation, there's different tax benefits, there's equity you're building. And a lot of people don't get that. They look at it as, oh man, I lost, $200 this month. It's like,
Right.
yeah, but there's a lot of other things. It's hard to explain these things to other people, until they experience it. And then at the end of the year when they get their tax bill, they're like, oh, that's a lot better than I thought it was.
Turned out to be okay. Yeah, exactly. And I think that also comes into play with having our other, careers. Like we have a stable income regardless of this. So if we were solely relying on this, then we'd really have to be very smart.
Yeah, I've been watching the markets because there's definitely been a downturn especially my market because it's pretty saturated. Fortunately for me, of course I want a great ROI, but
Right.
we also we accepted that, hey, you know what, the ROI will be a little less. We're going to use it a little personally here and there, so it's not quite that bad. We're still breaking even to making money, just depending January through April, May is typically the slow season for the Georgia mountains. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what this summer is going to look like. But in the beginning, when I first started back in August, I mean, we were booked out all the way through December, almost immediately on opening.
Yeah.
And now most of my bookings are coming in 7 to 14 days beforehand. So there's definitely been a change.
Even in our completely different markets, you're seeing that, close booking. And I'm not sure if it's because people are nervous about, am I going to have the money to travel? So they're doing it last minute. I'm not sure what the motivation is there, but I'm rolling with it because I'm still getting bookings and, things are okay. Things are steady enough. So.
Well, one of the interesting things I read, I can't remember the exact source, but they said that, back like a year or so ago, they said that even though when times are tough, they're looking at historical recession, they said when times are tough, people still vacation. That's one of the things that they will always spend money on. They're just not spending it on the extravagant overseas European vacation. they focus more inward on beach properties, on mountain properties, on things that they can do within 6 hours of the house, which I think really, is good for our markets that we're in.
For sure. Yeah.
So, as with any entrepreneur, there are definitely setbacks. Can you tell me about the biggest failure of your career and or entrepreneurship, and what did you learn? What did you take away from it?
So I would say there's two big setbacks, a personal one in my early nursing career and then a professional one, with our entrepreneurship. My husband and I both. So we met very young, early 20s, and I was in nursing school. So my undergrad, anybody who's, gotten a BSN knows it's no joke. Like you really have to focus. And I met my husband when I was turning 21, and I was so enamored. And I was so enamored that I let my grades slip. And I actually got kicked out of my nursing program. I don't tell many people that, but I'm not ashamed of it anymore because I've learned and grown so much. So I had to apply, reapply, do an appeal. I had to get my professors who loved me and I loved them to write me letters of recommendation to get back into the program. And I had to wait a year. So I graduated a year later. I was that 5-year bachelor degree and I had to work my butt off to get back in that program. And so I had such a hard time with that mentally, but I also grew so much from that. So actually in my master's program, I ended up I mean, I like everything. I did exceptionally well. And I think that was compensating for when I slipped in my bachelor's program. But anyway, I graduated, I did well. And that was a lesson learned. So don't get distracted by a person in college when you're young. And then to that point, with our earlier investments. So when we were just getting married, just making investments, we did sometimes, invest in stocks that were interesting to us and maybe not financially smart. We definitely lost some money in some early stock investments. And I was like, man, maybe we should not be playing around with these stocks. And, so while we do still invest in stocks and different types of things, we've found real estate to be more stable. And that's a little bit why we gravitated toward that from all of those lessons that we learned with some not so sound stock investments earlier on. So.
We have a very similar story. I also got kicked out of my nursing program.
I've never met anyone else about it, or at least nobody who's owned up to.
Well, it's funny. So when my wife and I, we do professional conferences where we'll speak on leadership and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
one of my slides I have, as we talk about leadership and failing, is one of my slides is for me, it says the time I let a squirrel get me kicked out of my nursing program, which is, I guess, a story for another time on the podcast, but I got kicked out of school because of a squirrel.
I get it.
Yeah, it's there different funny things, and I always love asking the whole failure question because we always talk about our wins. Like, oh my gosh, let me tell you about all the money I made. Let me tell you about how successful I am. We're always keeping up with the Joneses, but nobody ever takes that moment to be humble and say, you know what? Here's one of the biggest setbacks of my life. Guys, it happens to everybody. And you know what? Look at how successful I am now. Because I dusted myself off and I got going. Like, because like what is it they say is a continuous effort. It's not strength or intelligence, but that's the key to unlocking your potential. And I said, it's believing in yourself,
Yes. And, the debt I went into, the dark place I went into, I was like, should I even be doing nursing? But I knew I was like, I love nursing. This is what I want to do. And that believing in yourself and the perseverance, I think it made me a better person in the long run. And I ended up, just killing it with my career, both with nursing, my nursing profession, and now doing amazing. I feel like I'm doing really good with the short-term rentals. So makes you a better person to fail a couple times.
I agree. And there's a lot to being a good person. Like I'm a big fan of giving back. So for our listeners, what have we known each other about 15 years now? Me and you probably.
That's how we met.
We originally met doing charity work for a camp for children with type 1 diabetes here in Georgia.
Yes.
So speaking of charity work, do you do any charity work still to this day? Do you have anything that you give back to your local community?
Yes. So I miss those camps so much. If I didn't have kids now, I'd be there every week, every summer, but so yeah, we donate to an amazing organization called Outreach for World Hope. They're based in Guatemala. I have a friend who her family volunteered with them. So it was kind of that personal connection because there's a lot of organizations out there and it's like, where do I put my money? So this one's a really awesome one. And we sponsor some kids and their, development and their education there. So that's one thing. And the other thing is I got a lot of scholarships in my nursing programs, both undergrad and graduate. My husband and I both paid for our college degrees. We paid for our cars, we paid for our cell phones. We did not have money from our families. So we are very, very financially independent from an early age. And those scholarships made me be able to get through my program. So I actually created a scholarship called Nursing with Intention, and I dispersed it through NP Student Magazine, who's run by an awesome woman, Dr. Little. She is phenomenal, and I was able to work with her to get applicants for this scholarship, and we're doing it again this year. So yeah, look out for NP Student Magazine. My Nursing with Intention scholarship will be again for 2023, disbursement in 2024. So the applications will be this year.
That's
Yeah.
exciting. So for me, who actually doesn't know anything about making a scholarship, is this
Yeah.
like a 501c3 charity, or is this a scholarship something separate?
So that is my goal, is to make it the 501(c)(3) to actually have like it all legitimized, but time management, I just couldn't get there. So being able to partner with Dr. Little and NP Student Magazine, it's just really straightforward. I really just, we get the applicants, we go through it, we cut them a check. It's pretty straightforward. And it is a tax write-off, but it's not, I haven't gotten to the actual the other benefits of it. And that's my goal. Like, I'd love to have my own nonprofit one day. So I just, you got to manage your time, and that's not exactly where I'm at in this moment, but I still feel like I can give back.
So if any of our listeners that are well-to-do would like to donate to your scholarship, do you allow that?
Yes, I would love that. I would love to beef up the scholarship more, or even better, offer more than one. Yeah, that would be awesome.
That's fantastic. If all you guys hear that out there. So for a new investor looking to get into a short-term rental market and have even a semblance of the success that you've had thus far, do you have any advice you can give them so that they can kind of take a similar path, or what would you do to get to where they need to be?
So I think, if you've been listening this whole time, I've touched on cash flow. You've got to understand that you're not always going to make money, and that there's going to be things that come up, expenses, damages. So you've got to have your head wrapped around cash flow, and not only be dependent on, the income, because like you said, you could be $200 down one month, but it's bigger picture. Having a plan, like the whole 6-month thing you said, love that. You've got to have a plan, and you've got to have a passion. So you've got to give yourself some time to see, is this something I really want, or is this something that's been like a reflex because I have extra money or I see somebody else do it? And then the last thing is, don't think yourself out of it. I have so many friends who, they have a stable income, they have some extra money saved, they want to make an investment, and they just can't pull the trigger, and they're talking themselves out of it. So I think you've got to at some point take a leap of faith, and just believe in yourself, and then always know that you can backtrack, you can backpedal. With most investments, if you're smart, you're not going to crash too hard, and you can always backpedal. So just go for it.
I love it. That's some fantastic advice. And speaking of developing plans, what's your plan? So we can call you up here 2 years and in 8 years. Where do you hope to be in those marks?
So in 2 years, I want to be in my nurse practitioner degree, career still. I want to keep my touch there. And also I would like to be growing and continuing to grow Next Line Properties to the point where I'm managing, 20, 30, 50 properties, as well as having our own. I see us having, our goal is one per year. We want to acquire one new property a year. So we did 3 in 2 years. So we kind of took a year off, but we're hopefully by the December of this year, we're going to have another property. So, and then 8 years, I would say, still wanting to be in healthcare in some platform, maybe teaching. I actually taught, I was adjunct faculty teaching clinicals. Like, I loved that. Not great money. So maybe doing something like that while full-time doing the Next Line Properties, property management, all of that. So that's kind of where I see myself.
That's fantastic. You're a busy person that wears many hats. So I guess my last question I have, which is also very important, you do a lot for yourself, you do a lot for your family, you do a lot for your community. What do you do for yourself? How do you better your mind and body? Are you an exercise guru? Do you read? How are you continually, feeding your machine?
The the two things I'm very, very adamant on are yoga. I've done yoga most of my life. My mom actually took me from a young age. So I taught for about 5 years. I taught yoga. I had to give that up. Had all the hats I wore, that one had to go, but I still love yoga. And then Reading. I will read, sometimes 3 books a month. I'm listening to one book on Audible and I'm reading one book and I'm listening to podcasts. So I think that gives my mind a little bit of a break. And my husband is a huge runner. I don't understand running. I hate running. I have no connection with running, but for some people that's their thing and that's his meditation. So for me it's yoga and reading. You actually kind of hit the two that I do from the beginning.
All right, just I guess one more question. I lied. That was
Yeah.
the last one. You say you're a big reader. What's your give me 2 or 3 books that you recommend for our readers to better themselves? I always talk about my books that I read. Are you reading stories? Are you reading Harry Potter and Twilight fan fiction, or are you
So
reading self-help
I
and management?
I go back and forth. I kind of go back and forth. Currently, I'm in a fiction, thing, some Colleen Hoover, some Taylor Jenkins Reid, like give me all the beach reads. But I've also gone through lots of Brene Brown. Honestly, anything by Brene Brown is phenomenal. I think there's a you go through these fluctuations in life where you need more. Right now I'm so overwhelmed. I have a newborn. I need that fiction. I need that escape. But 6 months ago when I was just pregnant, walking myself, with my 4-year-old, I wanted to do more self-help so that, I can better myself. So I think depends on the stage of life you're in. But anything by Brene Brown, honestly, now too, there's so many podcasts for bettering yourself out there. I mean, I could go on for days about, the great podcasts out there. Parenting podcasts, I'm a huge fan of. I could speak to so many things.
I agree. We should. I'm on a big podcast for betterment, like the Plan B CRNA podcast.
And share all your faves.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny about having a newborn. I do the exact same thing. So like mine's 14 days old right now. Yours is what, 2 months?
Yep, 8 weeks. Yep.
Yeah. So we're both kind of in the sleep deprived.
I really think she woke up every hour last night, which she doesn't normally do. And it was because I had something to do today. I'm like, she can just sense that I'm going to be away from her for a little bit. And she's like, I'm going to wake you up every hour.
Mine does. I travel like once a month for like 2 or 3 days, and
Yeah.
whenever I travel, like the day before, he just knows and gets sick.
It's their way of wanting to pull us back in.
They're like, don't leave, or we need you.
Yes.
Well, Naomi, it's been fantastic having you on the show. All your information and contact information will be in the show notes for anybody who might want to contact her to ask her questions about the short-term rental market or potentially even donate to her scholarship. You can get a hold of us or look in the show notes and find a way to get a hold of Naomi. And then by all means, everybody check out her properties in Pensacola. They're all beautiful. I've seen them myself. I would stay there in a heartbeat. If me and my wife ever go down there, that's exactly where we'll stay. And so it's been great having you on, and thank you so much.
Thanks, Matt.
What a cool discussion. I remember when I first started paying attention to the FIRE movement, and it was a watershed moment for me. I'd always known that I needed to save for retirement, and I did that early and often, but I didn't know really about, when that retirement would be and what it would actually look like. But hearing stories of other people who are pursuing financial freedom gave me the courage to start branching out outside of the traditional and into the idea of creating various revenue streams. And Naomi and her husband Ryan have also caught on to this trend, deciding to take better control of their financial livelihood and future through their business, Next Line Properties. And while many people are diving into short-term rentals, they also recognize the need for high-quality property management. And this reminds me a bit of the gold rush. Yes, many people did make money finding gold, but many more made their fortunes by selling pickaxes and supplies. I mean, Levi Strauss made the right move at the right time for sure. And Naomi is doing a little bit of gold mining herself while also selling this industry's version of jeans and shovels. Not a bad way to go, if you ask me. I also admire Naomi for emulating the general idea of finding a problem that needs fixing and providing a solution. So many success stories that I've come across follow this path. There are just a ton of get-rich-quick schemes out there, but I find that the problem solvers and the doers are the ones who find the most success. And that really paves the way to a better financial future overall. That's going to do it for today's show. For those of you who want to learn more about Naomi and her journey, make sure you check out the show notes for her contact information. This is Bobby Jones signing off. Until next time, stay safe and take care of each other out there. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Plan B CRNA podcast. If you haven't already subscribed and reviewed the show, I'd be honored if you took the extra time. It really helps to expand our reach and get the word out about the show. If you're a CRNA who is interested in sharing your story on our podcast, I'd love to have you. Please email me at bobby@oncallinvestments.com for more information. This episode was brought to you by On-Call Capital. They are dedicated to helping providers like you develop passive income and generational wealth through investments in the apartment and alternative investment spaces. Feel free to check out their website at www.oncallinvestments.com and subscribe to their free educational email series. You can find On-Call Capital on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also check out our YouTube page, where you'll find all of the show episodes along with other educational videos. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.